Okay, we only got about 5 or 6 more minutes, and we're sorry, we're going to try to make a lot of miles. We're going on out to that fire in the west part of the state. Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Donna Hill from Las Cruces, and I actually have a question about the TRIO federally funded programs. TRIO programs help first-generation, low-income, and students with disabilities access education and support them in those endeavors. You, in 2003, actually contributed to a scholarship to one of our TRIO participants, Christopher Pearce. He is currently in Maryland, finishing up his doctorate. He'll soon be a doctor. And the question is that these TRIO programs are being used as a chip in setting the debt ceiling. They are vital to, again, first-generation low-income and people with disabilities accessing educational opportunities, and they have a very high success rate. Why would you consider using that as a pawn in the debt ceiling discussion?
Keep in mind that what you see happening on the surface is leadership, but behind the scenes, a lot of tugs of war going on. And so we're speaking on behalf of these programs inside the closed rooms. If they get lumped with 1,000 other things, then it gets to be very hard to cast a single vote based on just one item. But the TRIO program, I was in the first generation. My oldest brother, first generation, was going to go back to college. My oldest brother was 4 years ahead of me. Then I had another brother, and they were both in college when I started. I was lapping my second brother, so I thought, well, I'll be the second one in my family and the generation to ever go to college. Then Mom started the same year I did and finished, and suddenly I wasn't even on the same. I was the second generation. Anyway. So we're very sensitive to these people that are trying to break out, and we'll watch for that. Again, staff, if you all will, technical foul, if y'all will listen, if you make note of that and get that to Claire, she's the one that will watch that, and we'll see. If you get us a number, we'll call and tell you where it is and what the tug of war going on in the program is. Because there's some real hard fights in the Republican conference saying we don't have to cut the dollars to people that really depend on them. Cut the waste, the fraud, the abuse first before we go to the programs coming out the end of the line. And I think we should be cutting the bureaucracies before we cut the dollars to the people also. Cut the people working Okay, we got 1 or 2 more. You guys, way up there, I'm going to go, I want to, okay, 1, 2. We're going to work in, yes. We're standing in line in front of me and help me sign in, so I've got to give you a chance to get us out here. All right.
My name is Lori English. I'm from Las Cruces. I'm a United States Marine Corps veteran. Congressman Pearce, I'd like to ask you about the issue on the refusal of the government to let forestry occur, to let them, or refuse to let them cut trees, which is killing the lumber business, but also I understand that right now the state of Arizona is considering a lawsuit against the federal government because if, like 3 years ago, we had the fire in the Organs, and that fire was restarted again last month, they were able to get in there because of the undergrowth. They were able to get in there and clear out that fire and get a handle on it. In Arizona, the reason that they're not getting a handle on the fire, either one of them or all 3 of them, or more right now, is because the government is not allowing the lumber industry to go in and clear the land. Is there any way that Congress can be held more accountable for the fires in Texas, the fires in Arizona, the fires in northern New Mexico?
Yeah, first of all, nothing is going to happen in Congress. I'll just tell you that. You can like it or dislike it, but if we got it through the House, it would not get through the Senate because they got the filibuster rule there. If we got through the Senate, then the President wouldn't sign it. So I'm asking for local counties to become activist counties. And so Otero County has actually passed a resolution saying they're going to start cutting trees around Cloudcroft. Cloudcroft has got 1 road in and 1 road out. They're going to take something like 10 to 20,000 acres around Cloudcroft and begin to log in the Lincoln National Forest. Out in Arizona, I've talked to Mr. Gosar, who's in the same position I am, representing the Arizona part that's burning up. They're going to bring in Native Americans to start logging those burned trees because historically those trees are not damaged, they're killed because it burns across the top. They can still be logged, but environmental groups bring lawsuit to stop the logging, and then the judge will pitch that one out, and a new group will take the same suit, put it in, the judge will pitch that out, and they'll have 20 or 30 of these lawsuits, and by the way, taxpayer dollars are paying for every single lawsuit, and so you're funding the stopping of American jobs. So those lawsuits continue until the timber has no value, until it's rotted. And so Arizona is saying we're going to go ahead and start cutting those trees now while they have economic value. Now, one more thing that I'm saying, if you consider this chart here, excuse me, I got me high tech and I already forgot it, but this 202 is some Social Security, some Medicare, and some Medicaid. I'm saying that right now we're not getting anything for any of our trees. And I don't advocate clear cutting, never misunderstand that. I'm talking about balanced thinning programs. But if we would take just the royalties, if you would take the royalties from that timber and begin to pay it off towards Social Security, we borrowed 2.2 or 2.4 trillion from Social Security is reason it broke. If that money was in the lockbox, Social Security would be fine for the next 30 years and it'd be okay, we wouldn't have a problem. So do some common sense things. Number one, create the jobs cutting timber. That would increase the people there. When they come off of welfare and unemployment, that lowers that number. But then take the royalties, which we don't currently get, don't spend them as more of this up here. Instead, apply them to the seniors who've got nothing else. My mom is 80-something, she can't go back to work. And so let's figure out how we can solve multiple pieces of the equation altogether. Yes, sir, wrap it up and let's make it good. I got to get this. Yes, sir, you're the one. Stand up and we'll get to you. Somebody get a mic up there.
Where are you?
Congressman, my name is Sam Bradley. I'm from Las Cruces. I'm old enough to remember Franklin Roosevelt's first term in which he gave us about more than a dozen new federal programs. Some of them still plague us, like the NLRB, which has been mentioned. Subsequent presidents have given us other programs like Jimmy Carter's Energy Department and George Bush Education Department. Some of Roosevelt's programs like the WPA and the PWA and the Agriculture Adjustment Act and others didn't work, and so they've just been dumped. Why can't we just dump the Department of Energy and Department of Commerce and the agriculture sector?
Again, very common sense proposal, and common sense just doesn't get very far in Washington. There have been many of us contending for that, and it's desperate. Let me go through one last thing here. When we have this 1.3 T, we have to do the same thing. That is 1.3 trillion that we're short, that we don't have. Now, we have to do the same thing you'd have to do. You have to go to the bank to borrow the difference. And eventually your banker says no more. Who is our banker in the U.S.?
China.
China is our banker. Who was the second banker? Who was the second biggest banker? Japan. Japan is not making loans right now. They will not be for a long time. The third leading banker was whom?
Britain.
PIMCO, U.S. citizens. And PIMCO this year quit lending to us. 20% of all the money we borrowed was from them. They're down to zero. Japan is down to zero. China has been saying we're not going to do much more. So when you can't borrow the money, then you go broke. You simply have to file for bankruptcy. We're not going broke because Ben Bernanke is printing the amount of money to make this up. He printed $2.4 trillion this year. They call it quantitative easing, but it's really printing of money. And that 2.4 is beginning to take away the purchasing value that you have in your pocket. People are saying the price of gas is going up because of the evil oil companies. No. If it were just the evil oil companies, then the price of food would not be going up also. The price of gold and silver, the price of metal wouldn't be going up. Those things are going up because your dollars are worth less. They're worth less, it's because we're inflating here. If you only had the price of gasoline, now you could point a finger, but it's not just gasoline, it's across the board. And it's because people are seeing their dollars be worth less, and the hedge funds are flowing over into oil and into commodities. They're spending their money over there because they'd rather have pig bellies or pork bellies than they would the dollar bill. That's the reason you're seeing prices just skyrocket up. He wants to ask a question. That's not stabbing. Okay. You guys are really treating me rough. They're wanting to get me out the door. I want to give her a chance. Speak it up. Just shout out.
Talk very softly.
Okay.
Are you really not gonna vote for the debt ceiling?
If they don't do reforms, I will not, no. We must. We're in bankruptcy. Are you seeing Greece? They're having riots in the street because the thing is bankrupt.
Didn't Wall Street say they're not, isn't that why Wall Street's having some problems here? Because they're afraid we're gonna default?
Wall Street's not having problems with that. Wall Street is having problems because of the printing of money. Wall Street is having problems because of that. We would stay here another hour or two. We need to do this again.
Thank you.
We just really want to give yourselves a round of applause. This is